Welcome to Wheels Off, a show about the messy reality of the creative life. I'm Rhett Miller.
That's when it got wheels off. We started up and we ain't gonna stop. Oh, said I like it or not. That's when it got wheels off.
Hayes Carll is a very good friend of mine, full disclosure, and someone I really admire, and has a beautiful new record out called We're Only Human. And I think you're going to love this. You know, it's a really kind of nitty-gritty conversation. It's easy to talk to Hayes. In a way that I don't really get to sort of dig in with people I don't know as well. Perhaps that's a failing of me as an interviewer. This is not my primary job. I'm still just a rock and roll singer masquerading as a podcast host. But with Hayes Carll, it's easy. I really appreciate him sort of getting, real. And not that other people don't. Not that he's not getting real all over the place on this new record of his. It's a very vulnerable album. But I feel like this is a really good Wheels Off. So, especially for songwriters, at the end of the interview, I asked him to dig into his songwriting process a little bit. I think y'all are going to enjoy that. Songwriters out there especially. Hayes is the best. You're going to love it. Please welcome to Wheels Off, Hayes Carll. Welcome to Wheels Off, Hayes Carll. What an absolute pleasure it is to have you. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
For the edification of our listeners, where are you logging in from?
I am in Northampton, Massachusetts, night 5 of our tour.
Wow. Yeah. So Northampton, is it the Iron Horse or someplace nicer?
It's the Iron Horse. Yeah, I've yet to elevate to whatever the next tier club is.
God, I don't want to immediately derail, but I had a fellow musician once from around there call and try, and I had an upcoming gig at the Iron Horse, try and get me to to boycott the Iron Horse and cancel my gig there for whatever reason. And I was tempted because worst dressing room in America. Sorry. But
You're not wrong.
I talked to Charles Thompson, Frank Black, who's from around there, from the Pixies, and I was like, what do I do? What do I do? He goes, man, you just got to go up there and do your shtick. It doesn't matter. So I kind of feel like, I don't know, man, this is our life. This is our lot in life.
Yeah, it's I like the room. I like playing the room.
Yeah.
It's the little things sometimes that I can't remember the last time or two if this still holds, but I do remember one time being handed the band menu.
Which is like 3 things.
Yeah, it's like a hot dog and some cheese sticks. And like, to me, it's about the most insulting thing you can do. We're out here, we leave our families and our homes and are grinding to do what we do, and we're lucky to get to do it. But it's when you're bringing business to a place and selling out a room, and no matter how big or small it is, and the whole kind of point of that establishment is to hear live music. When the people who generate that music come in and you hand them a menu that is a tenth of what the people coming out that you brought out get, it's a little thing, but it's a blow. It's a blow, and it really takes the wind out of my sails and puts me in a bad mood.
Oh man, that's so funny. Anyway, sorry. I know we immediately just
So this might be my last gig at the Iron Horse,
I know.
and tonight.
That's pretty funny. So what are you working on right now?
Oh, I released a new record last month called We're Only Human, and so I'm in the thick of touring that right now, which feels really good after spending a long time making it and then the promoting it and all that stuff. It's nice to just get out and play the songs and get back to doing what what I do. Um, but aside from that, I'm just kind of planning some events throughout the year. I've got a Christmas tour we do in December, and I've got a birthday show for myself in Nashville in January, and just trying to find fun ways to get out and play music with friends, and uh, I've been doing this for a while now, and trying to keep it interesting for myself and the audience is front of mind these days.
Yeah. Well, which congrats on the new record. It's really beautiful. And it's funny that you talk about keeping it interesting because, you've done some projects recently that are really kind of fun and loose and lighthearted. And then the new record feels very raw. Is that a good description of it?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Right before this, I did a little project with the band of Heathens. We
Yeah.
formed a band called Hayes and the Heathens, and the whole goal of that was or our rule was, if it's not fun, we don't do it.
Yeah.
And I'd never really approached music that way. I've never been in a band. It was always just singer-songwriter who had a band, but it was kind of all on me, and it was really liberating to just get out and have, they hand me an electric guitar, tell me how to play it, and then there's some songs where I'm just over there looking at the crowd and smiling, and it was really a joyful experience for me. Um, and then when it got time to doing my own work again, uh, I was just kind of going through uh life, and I've been running into a lot of the same walls over the years again and again, and I was just getting really frustrated and tired with it, and feeling like I have so many blessings and so many positive things in my life that it shouldn't be this hard, you know, and I shouldn't feel so stuck, and I was just trying to find a way to have a little more peace and ease, because if I can't do it now, when am I gonna do it? And so it just became that point where I just started trying to really face some of that stuff. And I went through a divorce, and my son is a man now. He says hello, by the way. He's a huge fan of you.
Love him.
um and um I'm about to turn 50, and I think it was just a collection of things that finally just said, you can't put this off anymore. And so that found its way into my work in a way that it never really had before. And so, yeah, the record's a lot more introspective and reflective. But yeah, it's just me trying to sort out my stuff, and hopefully there's things that people can get out of it and enjoy. But it was a bit of a selfish project.
What's it been like to take it out on the road and play the songs every night?
It's been really powerful. Um, for me, I think for so long, uh, when we first start out, I'm just like trying to prove to myself that I can call myself a songwriter or an artist of some kind, and just trying to rhyme stuff and find things that sound cool, and every once in a while get lucky and something sounds deeper than it is, or something, catches on. But I was just trying to find my place in a lot of ways. I loved songwriters, and just wanted to be a part of that, and it brought me great joy. Um, uh, but I think so much of the time I was worrying about, as a performer, particularly, like, how do I entertain people? How do I make this a cool experience? How do I come off as cool? And um, and this is the first time ever that I just really did something just for myself. And I hope people like it, but whether they do or not, I am content with what the work I did. And it's really gratifying to go out and play these songs, a lot of which were sort of written to myself as reminders of, uh, these little lessons I've learned, or little epiphanies I've had about how I want to live and be. And in real time, I'll be singing the song, and I'll say, "Oh, this is what this is about. Like, this anxiety I have right now, or this headspace I'm in, or my attitude. This song is actually about that." And I'll check myself in real time on stage, and then kind of get reset and get back into that place. And that's really cool to be able up there performing and be thinking about that and experiencing that. And then when the audience gets into it in the same way, it's a pretty profound thing for me. I'm looking out in the crowd and I feel like we're on a level together. And um, in the past, for me, that was just like I'm getting them fired up, or I'm making them. You make people feel certain things, and I don't want to discount what I've done. It just feels more intentional and more uh, a little wider and deeper than anything I've done before.
Man, it does. It sounds next level. And it's funny too, because I feel like it's always therapeutic, the thing we do, but this seems very intentionally therapeutic.
Yeah, yeah. It's uh for a while I was kind of embarrassed with myself. I'm like, nobody wants to hear your self-help session, Hayes. And um but I think we all go through similar stuff. I don't care what your job is or what your background or your surroundings or um this journey is a challenging one. And um uh I feel like acknowledging that and having a little grace for each other and ourselves uh on the way, and trying to find the good in each other, and trying to give ourselves a little peace and grace. I think that's something everybody can relate to and use, and so I've gotten over my fear of judgment around it, and just said, you know what, I feel good about this, so I'm going to take it out there and see if people respond to it, and so far they have.
I wonder if your experience has been this idea comes up a lot that I find I agree with that when you do something that's more personal, it ends up being more universal, which is counterintuitive.
Yeah, exactly. And um, I can overthink things to death for sure and miss the forest for the trees. But it's what when I called the record "We're Only Human" and wrote that song. Uh, that's what uh, finally kind of got me over the hump. Was like, this is not unique to me. This is I'm just a songwriter and have the ability at times to articulate that and explore that. Um, but I'm so grateful to the people who have done that for me and helped me see myself in a certain way, or help me feel better, or come together. And yeah, it's we're all born, we're all going to die, and we're all going to have uh a lot of stumbles along the way. So um uh while I wrote it for myself in large part, I do feel like it's something we're all going through, obviously, and so hopefully it can have some universality there.
Yeah. Funny, what a big moment for you, sort of dealing with this as you close in on a half century. I wonder for you when you think back to the earliest moments of it all, are you able to pinpoint a moment when you knew that you were going to be a songwriter and devote your life to this vocation?
uh I mean, I wanted to do it since I was a kid. It was always the fantasy and or the dream. And early on, I just loved language, and I loved songs in particular, but I loved the power of language. And so I thought maybe I could be a writer, maybe I'd be a novelist, maybe I'd uh, do something like that, and but just be involved with language in some way. And then I realized that between my ADD and lack of discipline and limited imagination, that a novel was not in the cards for me. And I thought, well, I'll be a poet, or I'll do short stories. But that I just kept coming back the whole time. I just had this love of music, and that was the most natural thing to me and the most powerful thing for me personally. And so I started writing songs in high school, and went to college, and was getting more and more into it. But I lived in a dry county, so there was nowhere to play music. So um, I was just kind of in this limbo where I was studying history, but I had zero intention or plans to do anything with it. Um, and so it wasn't until I got out of school and I just said, I'm going to give it a shot. And I didn't have really any other. options. So I was like, I might as well uh, go for it. I just didn't want to have the regret of not knowing. I had zero really expectation, and I didn't even know that there was a place for people like me, like that middle ground of. I thought you were either on a major label and on MTV, or you know, uh, um, I didn't know how people made a living doing it, or that there was this world out there where you could go and do your own stuff without being a big star. Um, but I wanted to figure it out one way or the other and see what was what. And I'm really glad I did. So probably around 24, 25, when I actually, was working. I remember at one point going, I could play a house concert a week and make 500 bucks, and or I was playing 6 nights a week in like these little bars and stuff, but I'd make 100 bucks a night, and my overhead was very low at 22, 23. And at a certain point I could carve something together, and I could actually do this, at some level. So yeah, probably my early 20s when I said, okay, this is it. And I think my last day job was 20, 25, 26.
What was it?
Uh, well, I had a bunch of them. I was kind of, doing a lot of stuff, but I think the last gig I actually had was as a test patient for the University of Texas Medical School in Galveston, but not like they weren't giving me drugs. It was training for the doctors, because or the students there, the medical students, because they would learn all the science stuff, but their bedside manner was terrible. Nobody, they didn't have any classes for here's how you tell somebody they have cancer, or whatever. And so just combined a lot of my skills. So my job was to go in and pretend to be a patient, and they would give me a script, and then I would have to go in, and this doctor would have to diagnose me without me. I would have certain clues I would give them, and the whole thing is being observed by actual doctors or teachers. It was so awkward and uncomfortable, but it was 20 bucks an hour. And I remember my first script was I was a schizophrenic with herpes.
Typecasting.
Yeah. So I just it was unbearable. And yeah. But
Oh,
I did a lot of like landscaping and waiting tables and bartending, and
sure.
and I worked for the Census Bureau, and just whatever I could find.
When it was all starting to click, what role did mentorship play in it for you? Did you get lucky?
I did, and I'm aware of that more and more as time goes on. Um, I had early on, I had a couple. So I started out at a little club called the Old Quarter Acoustic Cafe down in Galveston, and it was run by a guy named Rex Bell, who was Towns Van Zant's former bass player, and he played with Lightning Hopkins and even Lucinda a little bit. And um, not a great mentor career wise, but just somebody that had been in this world, and had a lot of belief and faith in me, and gave me a platform through his club to play and really championed me. And then through that club, I met the Sisters Morales, um, Lisa Morales in particular. They started letting me open for them, and they were one of the first people to take me off the island and take me to Houston, take me to Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, and then Lisa produced my first record, and then Ray Wiley Hubbard was the other one. At that same time, he also took me off the island, and let me get in front of his crowds, and so it was really validating for me. One, just that somebody had enough faith in me to put me in front of their audiences, and but they also taught me a whole lot along the way about, there was no school for this thing, or not one that I knew about or attended. And whether it was about writing, or how you carry yourself, or what to look out for, or what a career can be in the ups and downs and pitfalls, they were very generous in sharing that information, and then championing me, and it really, it meant the world to me. And I don't know that I would be here without those three people.
Have you found opportunities to pay that forward now that you're, like I said, approaching your half century mark yourself?
Uh, yeah, I try. You know, a lot of times, uh, I've been pretty wrapped up for a lot of my own life in my own life, and have not been as generous or as giving as I should have been or would have liked to have been. But as I get older, those examples keep coming back to me. The Ray Wiley Hubbard one, like he was not just that for me. He's been that for hundreds of young singer-songwriters. And the generosity he showed me at a time where there was nothing in it for him. I was a bartender. There was no reason to sit down and show me a finger picking pattern or talk about songwriting or put me on his shows. There was nothing in it for him. And I think about that a lot as I'm kind of living in my own selfishness and my own world, and it's all just about, oh, well, I got this and that and blah blah blah. And and his example comes back to me all the time and inspires me to be better and to give more of myself and to think about others more than myself. So I'm not fully there yet in the way I'd like to be, but I think I'm a lot better, and certainly try to make time and be generous with the people coming up, because I see myself in them, and it's very strange to be this uh, to be, I don't know if I'm an elder statesman yet, but to be, somebody who's been doing it for 25 years, and uh, I remember how I looked at those people when I was a young kid doing it, and so I'm trying to not waste that opportunity to do something good for somebody.
I know you well enough to know that you're not immune to interior struggles, self-generated obstacles, the voice in our head that tells us we're no good, or maybe imposter syndrome, the different stuff that comes up over and over again with folks who live a creative life, maybe all humans, but certainly folks like in our job. Um, I wonder what strategies you've come up with to deal with that, to get to beyond those obstacles.
Mhm. I think it's partly just time. I mean, that's helped at a certain point when I'm having that negative talk. You're terrible. Nobody likes you. Blah blah. And then I go, you know what? You put out 10 records, and you have a career, so that can't be entirely true. Um, and then and another part of that is, as I look around at the friends I have and the people that um, I'm really fortunate to look around and say most of my heroes, uh, I think, I've gotten to work with, I've gotten to write with, I've gotten to tour with. They've said nice things about me, and so sometimes like that really helps to look around and go, you know what, Brett Miller took me on tour and like has been very kind to me and generous, and like I don't think he would just waste his time if he thought I was terrible, or for example. But and there's a lot of those, and um, but also I these days just on the thing I can actively do is accept that I am what I am, and if I'm good or not is not for me to determine so much as making the most out of what I do have, and so it's those things you can control and the things you can't. And I can't control people's perception of me, but I can control the effort I put into my work and the intention I put into it. Um and when I can focus on that, I'm a lot more joyful and confident, and feel a lot wholer going out into the world.
It sounds like you're practicing self-kindness, a little bit.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, it's that grace I was talking about is um uh, I just had to recognize that if I have these expectations of myself, or I'm beating myself up for all these things that I'm supposed to be perfect at or be amazing at, um uh I'm gonna be stuck in a negative place. So it's having a little bit of acceptance for who I am, the good and the
Yeah.
bad, and uh that nobody is perfect, and nobody is amazing all the time at all things, if anything, at any time. And so accepting that and just being okay with it has been huge for me.
You and I both have sons this exact age. So, my final question always winds up taking somebody back to when they were 21 years old and imagining a 21-year-old version of yourself in today's world. So, the things have changed a little bit. But I wonder what advice you might give that 21-year-old version of Hayes.
Mm. Oh, I should have a better an answer at the ready, because I have these talks with myself and I have them with my son. Um, but if I could go back and talk to myself, I think I would say, um, it matters and it doesn't matter, and um, the what you can control is your effort, is your intention, is your connection with people, what you put into relationships, what you put into your work. And I would encourage myself to focus a lot more energy on that and a whole lot less energy on what anybody thinks about it, or what the rest of the world is doing, um, to a point, you know. Um, I think I would have saved myself a whole lot of misery and heartache and stress and fear, and would have done a whole lot more work and had a lot uh, better relationships and just a better time in general if I could have been present for my life in a way that I wasn't.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that that comes up a lot. It's funny too now, you and I both having that version of our that 21-year-old sort of alternate reality version of ourselves knocking around. Because you watch them and you can't, you got to go through it. Like you could have heard that advice at 21, even if a time machine had brought yourself back in a Ted and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure type of way to give yourself your advice, and would you have even been able to receive it?
Yeah, the George Carlin. Uh, yeah, I don't know how much we could receive, but I do feel like, uh, some people probably did give me some form of that, or the advice that they did give, it hung around, even if I wasn't able to access it at the time. And some of those people are gone now, but that the sharing the things they thought were important, or just by their example and behavior, that stuff has stuck with me, and it rides along with me now, and has an effect. So it's a long tail to some of those things, but um, yeah. It's all another thing that's, to me, is like, speaking of our sons, like when I look at my kid, I for so long I'm just like, well, I got to tell him this, and I got to teach him this, and I got to teach him that, and do that, and blah blah blah, and because I clearly know, you know, because look how much I've got life figured out. And it's really humbling and gratifying when I see him. Uh, he's got his struggles for sure, like anybody, but um, the way he approaches life, his attitude, his generosity, his curiosity, um, it's it makes me really just grateful that his spirit is what it is, and it makes me want to shut up, because it's like, I'm learning from him more now, I feel like, than he's learning from me. And that may be a reflection on me as a dad or a person, but it's also a reflection on him, and uh it's a really interesting place to be, to feel like I have this child that I'm sure I had something to do with the good, but I also did a lot of things that could have really derailed him, and that he has come out as a strong and decent person is just really gratifying.
Oh man, that's very sweet and beautiful. Before I let you get out of here, I want to ask just a little bit about songwriting specifically,
Yeah.
and I wonder, first of all, I mean, do you feel like you are conscious of your process with songwriting, or do you feel like it's very much just like it comes out of you without you sort of being able to know what's happening or direct it?
It's a bit of both. These days, I find my most effective system and most fun way of going about it is a combination. So, um, my sort of routine or method these days is I've got my trusty iPhone, which, oh, praise Jesus, hallelujah, thank you. Um, the voice memo section. What I like to do is just hit record and just start playing, and just stream of conscious, whatever comes out comes out. I'll find a melody, I'll just start singing, and and that way I don't have that limiter, I don't have that filter, which has been such a problem for me in life. Like I used to not be able to keep a journal because I'm like, well, somebody might read this and it's so stupid, you know. So that's not conducive to being an artist or being creative if you're just your own judgment of yourself or fear of others is weighing you down. So this it's a really liberating thing to me to just hit go and just start playing, and it's like morning pages or something. It's just there's just no filter. And I'll do that, and I'll get like three or four or five song ideas in a setting, in a sitting, and 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 that's my work for the day a lot of times. And then when I'm on a plane or when I have some uninterrupted time, I'll go through my voice memos and I'll listen to them. And some of them it's just delete, delete. This is crap. And some of them I go, this is a good title, or I really love this melody, or I just wrote 80% of a song. Just off the top of my head, like there's enough there, and then I'll file those away. And and then the next part of it for me is the craft, um, which took me a long time to realize the importance of editing and revising and reworking and trying different perspectives and point of views. Um, but that's when I get in there and then I start hammering it out. And I've got a framework. Maybe I have a melody. I have a title. Maybe I have a verse, and I can see the where it's going to go, what might happen, and then I start using my tools that I have developed, um, to get there. And so it's two part for me is one, just the opening up to the ether and the magical creativity land and access that in the best way I can, and then sit down and use my craft to turn it into actually something. Because I have 10,000 amazing songs read. I don't know if you knew this, but only about 100 of them have been written. And and so that was the big step for me, was to take the great idea in my mind and then actually turn it into a thing. Because I'd come up with an idea and be like, oh, this is what it's going to sound like. This is how people are going to respond to it.
Oof.
This is the award I'm going to get for it. This is how big my crowd's going to be. And I mean, I'm off in daydream lands to the races, and my whole life is figured out. And but then the next day I come back and it's just me mumbling a few words with like a C and a G chord. And so I got really tired of just going, okay, actually that's nothing, and I'm living in fantasy land. So I got to actually put the time in.
When you are revising and rewriting, do you have specific stuff that you consciously look out for, the good or bad?
Uh, I try to be aware of, I can be long-winded for sure in life and on the page, and over-explain things and not give people enough credit um to figure it out on their own. Um, I had a therapist recently tell me that over-explaining is just a fear of being misunderstood. And so I try to have a little more confidence in myself as a writer, that I can say what I need to say, and then that makes me sort of be more precise. So I try to look for where I'm repeating myself, unnecessary syllables and words, to try and trim things down. Um, and also, I step outside myself a lot these days and try and think of it if I'd never heard this song. Because in my mind, I'd say, I know where this is going and this is perfect, but I'm not listening to it from the point of view of a listener. And so I'll step back pretty regularly and say, okay, well, how, if I'd never heard this, how's this hitting me? How does this make me feel? Is that getting the effect that I want? Um, so it's a lot of that, and I think about perspectives too. Um, is this first person? Is it better delivered from this point of view? Because there are times to explain, there's times to just create an image and a mood, and then there's times to tell a story. And then whose perspective are you telling it from, and what's the end goal? Like, what do you want the takeaway to be? So I get outside of myself a lot more than I used to, um, and try and figure out how to make it a thing that can live beyond me. Um, and if somebody else sang the song, or um, thinking about it not being, when I moved to Nashville, I started thinking about that a lot more. I was like, what if somebody covered the song and I couldn't put my inflection on it, or couldn't, do the wink and a nod, or like I needed the song to stand on its own. And so I started thinking a lot more about how that happens. And it's not just, hey, singing it. It's hopefully anybody could sing it and the effect would be similar. And so I started changing around that time.
How do you like co-writing, with collaboration? How does that work for you? Do you have any tips for listeners about how to make it better?
uh, yeah, I've done a lot of it. This record I wrote mostly entirely on my own. My buddy Aaron Ratier came in and helped me finish up a couple, and I wrote one with MC Taylor, his Golden Messenger.
Yeah.
Um, and but it's a tricky thing, it's sometimes I'm always grateful I had the experience. It's not always a fun experience or a productive one. Um, and I have some of my favorite songs I've written that have come about that as co-writes that never would have existed without somebody. And when you're on that flow and you're connecting, it's a pretty magical thing. When you're not, it's painful and just uh, awful. But as far as tips, I try and go in and think. I try to take the pressure off myself first of all, and and like Daryl Scott, the first time I wrote with him, we just talked for 4 hours. We just had a conversation, and and then at some point I said something, and he said, "That's interesting. What if we talked about that?" And then we found ourselves into a song, and it happened organically. Um, uh, that happens rarely. A lot of times, particularly in like Nashville, it's like I find out I want to come in with titles and ideas and things, just so if we don't have that organic process, that we're not just wasting time and staring at each other awkwardly. So I find it's good to come in prepared with something, but not have an expectation that you're going to need or use any of it. But if you do, to just to have it, because that can, a lot of times people, especially in Nashville, it's like, okay, we got 3 hours, and there's an expectation to come out here with a song, and sometimes that happens, and it's cool when it does. But for me, I try to remember that whether I'm doing it on my own or with somebody else, it's going to take more time and more effort usually than I anticipated. And so I just try to get okay with that going in, so that I'm not feeling pressured or uncomfortable or disappointed with what we get. And if all we get is a title, or if all we get is a rough draft, that's great. Um, I can come back to it if it's worth coming back to.
Man, I feel like you're really naturally good at talking about this stuff. And I know you've guested on some retreats and stuff before. Have you thought about being a, songwriting teacher?
Oh, I thought about it at times. And last year I went and did Rodney Crowell's
Hmm.
songwriting camp, which was really cool. Um, I feel like at some point I might be able to, but also feel like these are sort of new revelations to me as well. You know, like because for so long I just was making shit up and like trying to rhyme things and sound cool and um or the lessons that I learned and was taking in, I wasn't aware I was taking them in. And
Yeah.
it's only kind of fairly recently where I've started going, oh, this is why I do that, or this is why that worked, or that didn't, or when so and so taught me this thing, this is actually why it was important. And so you accumulate information or life experience or whatever as you're going, but there's a difference between just having it inside of you or intuitively and being able to uh, be aware of it, its importance, and articulate it to people in a way that they can understand. So I've been trying to get better about doing that for myself and for you know, situations like this or the occasional songwriting camp that I get asked to do. But I don't think I'm quite ready to lead my own thing. But happy, always happy to talk about it. It's fun and interesting, and I feel like I always discover something. Like, you know, they say through teaching is the best way to learn, and sometimes I feel like that applies when I'm discussing stuff. I'll say something and I'll go, oh yeah, that's actually true. You're not just making shit up. Okay, let's write that down and put it in our little book of tricks.
Hayes, well, I think you're great, and I really appreciate all this wisdom you've shared with the folks listening. And I just, I think the new record is wonderful. Folks, if they haven't heard it already, they're going to love it. And I'm really glad you're doing what you're doing. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, it's my pleasure, Rhett, and I want to thank you. You've been uh, through this show and through your art and work and your generosity. You've been very good to me and been an inspiration to me, and I really admire you and look up to you, and grateful to call you a friend.
Oh, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.